r/ask Reddit. What's the weirdest thing you've done while your brain was on autopilot? I ordered a meat-long football from Subway. I then got upset when the dude had no idea what I wanted. Then we both laughed. What size sub? Meat long. Meat long. Spent ages cooking dinner only to pick the plate up and empty it straight into the bin. I was so tired and hungry. I cried. I was making breakfast one early morning and cracked my eggs straight into the garbage. Open banana, discard white parts into trash, pick the stringy bits off, notice I'm holding a peel and not a delicious banana. Go back to bed because clearly I'm not functioning and need to turn myself off and back on again. Poured orange juice instead of milk into my cereal. Put the bowl of cereal into the fridge. Walked back to the table with nothing, wondering where the duck I put my cereal. I've tried to put milk in the cabinet where the cereal goes a bunch of times. I've even tried to put a box of cereal in the fridge. Pulled into my complex. Walked up the stairs. My keys wouldn't open the door and then I realized it had been 7 years since I had lived there. I'm just glad nobody was home and I wasn't greeted by a Smith & Wesson. We moved across town. And one day about 2 years later I drove to the wrong place. I get out and start walking up the hill and just find rubble. I knew very well that they'd been tearing the place down for a month or so. I'd driven past it. I kinda wish I hadn't known that though. That would make for a better story. Oh my god, my house is destroyed. But no, I realized I had driven to the wrong place, but my brain was so sure I was right that it wouldn't let go of it. It took me about 10 seconds. Maybe, it may have been 2 or 3 seconds. It felt like forever to remember where I lived. Edit. Also, someone else had this problem once, and I was the victim. In the dorms, I was happily sleeping when some stranger gets in bed with me. We'd forgotten to lock the doors and this guy just walked in and joined me. In my panic state, all that I could come out with was, "Where are you supposed to be?" He sat up quickly and just stared for like 20 seconds saying, I'm sorry. Where am? I'm sorry. Where? That was probably more drunk stoned than autopilot. I drove a city bus in college. My route and my commute home had a road that overlapped. Driving home from work one night I ended up doing my bus route instead of my commute home and didn't realize it until I ended up in the bus terminal at the end of the line. I guess it was better than driving into my apartment complex with a city bus. I was really hoping it was the other way around. I was on a bus with a guy new to the route but finished his training. He got mixed up, took a wrong turn, got more mixed up, and some people who were regulars to the route straightened him out and got the bus on track again. It was funny as hell. No one was mad. Everyone just apologized and laughed because Canada Day. Meeting my brothers-in-laws for the first time. They asked me what my name was. I said Pete. My name is Tiffany. Edit. This is amazing. Pete and I would sincerely like to thank you all for the influx of amusement, as well as that special someone for the gold. Just who the duck is Pete? Tiffany? He doesn't want to talk right now. I have poured my dog a bowl of cereal instead of giving her food multiple times. Everything is food when you're a dog, edit. Obligatory thanks for the gold food, kind stranger. Can confirm. As a dog, your shoes are delicious. Instead of ground coffee, I put a couple scoops of sugar in my coffee filter and brewed it. I once poured the fresh grounds into the basket before placing the filter in. Upon realizing my mistake, I emptied and cleaned the basket and then placed the filter in its rightful place. Then I poured the water in and hit brew. 15 minutes later, I had a full pot of hot water. Not a good morning. How did it taste? Grabbing my keys, phone, wallet, etc. before work. Why is there a TV remote in my car? The etc. included the TV remote. I have done this. Instead of grabbing my coffee, I got my TV remote and didn't notice until I got to work. Haha. Damn, that's even worse since you left something behind to take the essential remote with you. I used to work in a call center and would answer my personal phone with my call center speech. I had to go to Walmart once after finishing my midnight cashier shift from a competing grocery retailer across the street. I absent-mindedly grabbed my stuff, approached the cashier and asked her if she found everything okay. We stared at each other blankly for a little bit. I worked as a greeter at a store that isn't Walmart. One day I was thinking about how I had to go to Walmart after work and greeted people with "Welcome to Walmart" several times. I used to work at the airport while in college, and one day I went to get groceries and drove 30 minutes to the airport instead. Someone knocked at my door and I knocked back. I worked at a restaurant where we had to knock on the bar door before opening it. I probably did it about 20 times a day for 6 years. Almost every time I open a door that you just have to push open, like a bathroom door at a restaurant or something, I knock really hard, like 3 times. Lots of weird looks. Had a pet rat out roaming with me while I made some toast. Cleaned up, put the rat in the fridge and didn't realize until I put the butter in the cage that oh shit, went to reclaim the rat. She was all duck off. The food box is mine now. Already gotten into the ham. That was the best day of that rat's life. I rushed all over there concerned and apologetic, and she's ducking us deep in a packet of ham and actually tried to cling to the door as I took her out. She'd seen Duck in Paradise and wasn't leaving. Probably the time I cracked 3 eggs into the sink, one after another. Or not putting a bowl under the colander when straining chicken broth. Well, that was a good use of my time. Stares forlornly at brown chicken bones. Opening a mozzarella cheese stick for my daughter. Threw away the actual cheese stick and gave her the wrapper. Duck you. This is all you get. Here's your cheese stick. Hun. Daughter cries, why don't you love me? Raising my hand to voice my opinion while in a conversation, not a school. I once did this in a Skype conversation. Skype meetings are the worst about this because you don't have any body language to clue you in that someone wants to say something. So usually 1 or 2 people just steamroll the conversation and you basically have to talk over them for 30 seconds to get them to stop and give you some time. It's honestly a real problem with conference calls in my experience. I cared for a horse for several years. First thing in the morning I would go put feed and water in the field, legged her out, and close the fence behind her. One morning as I'm walking back into my house, I hear a weird sound behind me, the sound of hooves on linoleum. She looked as surprised as I was that I had brought her into my kitchen. Luckily, she never told anyone, so my secret is still safe. You can let a horse to your kitchen, but you can't make it cook your breakfast. Put my phone in the fridge to charge. Makes sense. When my mum had baby brain, she would always leave her keys, the TV remote, and other small things in the fridge. Dad didn't complain during the summer. It's quite refreshing to use a cold remote. Edit. Baby brain is something folks suffer from after a baby is born. From both exhaustion and our primal instincts to care for the baby. Was at my fiance's house for dinner. Had to leave early. Was in a rush. Kissed her dad on the way out. Ah crap, something similar happened to me. I got to a party and saw people I knew, mostly female, so I gave them all a hug and a small peck on the cheek. Get to the one guy in the group, both of us bearded men, and proceeded to give him a peck on the cheek. We both just stopped and stared at each other. I grabbed my lunch on my way out the door for work in the morning. I kept wondering what that beeping noise was the whole drive there. Couldn't figure it out. Got to work and grabbed my lunch, only to realize I had actually grabbed the baby monitor. Imagine you pick up someone else's signal with the baby monitor and start hearing voices in your car. Put the dinner on and realized I had no carrots. Decided to drive to the shop to get carrots. Ended up driving to work. Burned the shit out of all the pots and had to buy new ones. Sounds like you forgot more than just her password. And you left the stove on too? Cleaning up my face with electric clippers. Thought, oh, missed a spot, and proceeded to shave off my ducking eyebrow. Lose my phone in my hand while in the middle of a call. It's better than looking for your glasses while you're wearing them. Not my proudest moment. Not as bad as not being able to find your glasses because you can't see without your glasses. I tried to put a pacifier in my mother's mouth as opposed to infant she was holding. The best part is that she was nagging the hell out of me. Once I was feeding my 1-year-old a banana and talking to my mom. In the middle of the conversation, I pushed the banana in front of my mom's face and just waited for her to take a bite. It took like 30 seconds to register that I was force feeding my 48-year-old mother, not my toddler. It was hilarious. I wear a fob watch at work. pinned to my chest. On my days off I don't half get odd looks if someone asks me the time, and I automatically start pawing at my boob. When my daughter was very young she loved trains, so I'd take her on short trips and the line past some fields, where I'd point out the animals to her. Got some weird British alarmed looks that time. I pointed out of the window and loudly said, "Look, moo cows," when was on the train by myself. I can't stop giggling at the moo cows. Now I look crazy. As most males are undoubtedly aware, men's restrooms usually have a fairly standard design. There's a row of sinks, followed by a row of urinals, and then finally a handful of stalls. The accepted etiquette for the men's room is nigh on universal, but for those who might not know, and there seem to be a fair number of you, it can be described as such. Enter the restroom. If there is a urinal available and the ones next to it are not in use, approach and do your business. If there is a urinal available and the ones next to it are in use, find another urinal. If no other urinals are available, save for ones with adjacent users, approach, stare straight ahead, and finish as quickly as possible. If there are no urinals available, use a stall. Be sure to close and lock the door. If there are no urinals or stalls available, stand behind a urinal, keeping as much distance between you and the current occupant as possible, and pretend to be very interested in either the floor or the ceiling. These rules are in place for the specific purpose of minimizing embarrassment, and they work well if everyone follows them. Unfortunately, while in a caffeine-deprived haze, I managed to accidentally exploit an unfortunate loophole. I had walked into the restroom, intent on, well, you can guess, and discovered that none of the urinals were available. Fortunately, one of the stall doors was ajar, indicating that it was unoccupied, or so I thought. Upon entering the stall in question, I discovered that it was already in use by someone who had neglected to close the door, and who was midway through their expulsion of fluids. Had I been in a sounder state of mind, I would have hurriedly exited and waited for a different section of the facility to become available. As it happened, I decided that the best course of action was to lounge against the wall, still inside of the stall, mind you, and twiddle with my phone until the guy finished his performance. It was only as he was nearing completion that I realized what I was doing, and I rushed to exit the stall before my unwitting co-occupant noticed my presence. Of course, that was right when someone else entered the restroom. They saw me leave the stall, assumed that it was empty, and walked forward, right into the original occupant, who was making his own exit. I decided to hold it in for a while after that. TL. Doctor, there's a party in the men's room, but no one was invited. I have two. Walking to work on a very straight path through a nature reserve, I fell asleep and sleepwalked for about 10 minutes. It was so weird. I blinked and suddenly appeared near the end of my journey. Got into my car with coffee and a newspaper. Carefully held the rolled up newspaper whilst hurling the coffee onto the passenger seat. In high school, I was home by myself, rehearsing an imaginary conversation with a boy I had a crush on. I poured imaginary him a real glass of orange juice. Edit. Holy cow, my first gold. I choose to believe it's from my crush. He is finally reciprocating the orange juice after all these years. Did you drink both? I did. Once while playing an intense board game, I was concentrating so hard that my buddy realized that he could just hand random things to me and I'd take them and put them in my jacket pocket or place them on the table in front of me. I only realized when I ran out of space to put things. The other day I was checking in at an amusement park. After the guy scanned my ticket, I, for some unknown reason, held out my hand, and the guy handed me his scanner. I knew none of those people were paid. They all just pass on the torch. I sleepwalk once in a while. Recently I got up at 2 AM and fed the dog. My girlfriend woke up and was like, WTF? Did you just feed the dog? What time is it? Apparently I looked her in the eye and said everyone loves a midnight snack. Edit. Thanks for the gold. I got out of work late. Drove home. Must have dozed off because last thing I remembered was being on the freeway a couple of exits from home. Woke up in the garage 10 minutes later, with the car turned off. I got home safely without causing an accident. Scared me still thinking about it. Most people are kidding when they tell Jesus to take the wheel. Highway hypnosis. This happens a lot to people, especially when driving the same route repeatedly each day. It just becomes second nature, so your brain tunes out and figures you got this. Scary as shit when you come around and realize you've driven 50 miles on the highway and don't remember a second of it. Woke up 3 hours early for some reason and didn't check the clock but thought I was running late. Rushed through getting ready for work and hit the road. Think it's a bit darker than usual, but it could just be grey clouds before the rain. Road's a bit emptier than I'm expecting. Must be lucky today. Finally pull up to work and start opening up the shop before anyone else gets in. Look over at the clock and realize I still have 2 hours to go before I even wake up. Almost went home but decided to stay and just take off 3 hours earlier than normal. I did this. I was in high school and thought I heard my alarm go off. So I got up and got in the shower. Normally my mom helped me make my lunch and get breakfast ready. We did everything at the same time. So I was kinda pissed that she wasn't there. Got dressed, packed my lunch, ate breakfast, and went to tell mom goodbye. As I walked into her room, my backpack on and my car keys in hand, I saw her clock. 3:43 AM. I think this is a joke. Her clock is wrong. Check my watch that I put on but somehow never looked at. 3:43 AM. Say, duck this, and go back to bed. Find out when I wake up at the right time that all I had put in my lunch was a banana and a packet of tea. And for breakfast, I'd had cereal with orange juice poured in. I knew this because half of it was still in the freezer. Not a good morning for me. Worst part, I didn't even use a ducking alarm clock. My mom woke me up. Don't know what I was on that morning. Edit. Gold. Thanks stranger. Locked keys in car, then locked car inside house garage. Good times. Patted one of my co-workers on the butt. I was in the habit of walking up behind my husband and patting him on the butt, so it was just automatic. Fortunately, co-worker wasn't offended. Haha, I've done that. I was walking through town with my GF at the time, looking at stalls and shops, and she was in my periphery, or so I thought. She had stopped to look at something else and a woman of roughly the same height and hair color was stood next to me. I checked my phone for time, gently caressed her shoulders and said, come on now, it's time for us to head off, and just walked away from this woman. I turned around a few meters later to see my GF, a luminescent shade of embarrassed and this entirely freaked out little old Asian woman. I filled my car with gas and, when I got home, realized that I had not paid. I went back to the station and told the clerk what I had done. She thought she was missing a payment, but the station was really busy at the time, so she wasn't exactly sure. I paid for my stolen gas and went about my way. I also walked into the convenience store next to my work, grabbed a Gatorade out of the cooler and walked out the door. I realized what I did when I got back to work. Went back and paid for that. 2. TLDR. I steal things. I once paid for the gas then drove off without pumping it. Edit. For a while now, I've secretly loved that my top voted comment was in r/actions. It was only a matter of time before my true nature was uncovered. Idiocy. Yay. I woke up one morning in college, got dressed, left my room and got halfway out of the dorm before I realized I had no pants on. I did something like that when I was like 8. My dad was in the car getting ready to take me and my brother to the game room, and I didn't want to miss out, so I ran to the car without pants on. Then I hear my mom yelling out the window, "You have no pants on." When I was sick and feeling feverish, I decided to take some Motrin to try and alleviate the symptoms. Usually I grab the pill bottle and shake out 2 pills, but instead I grabbed my water bottle first and poured water all over my hand. I feed my cat while I make breakfast. One very sleep deprived morning I made cereal in her bowl and put her kibble in my cereal bowl. I didn't realize I ducked up until I shoved a giant spoonful of cat food in my mouth and chewed a few times. So, how did it taste? Like old beef jerky flavored sand. Size, it had been a long, rough day at work. Once I got home I really had to pee. I pulled down my pants, sat and started peeing. I forgot a step. Pull down underwear. You read it right, everyone. I pissed myself on the toilet. Edit. Fun fact. I never shared my embarrassing moment with my husband. I wanted to share some of the funny responses I got and finally just told him. He hasn't stopped laughing yet. Open bracket. He was having a bad day, so I'm glad I shared. I feel bad for laughing so hard. You were so close, and yet so far. Was really tired but too hungry to sleep once. Went downstairs to make a PB&J. Once I was done, I put the knife in the fridge and held the peanut butter under the sink faucet for a good minute trying to process why something was wrong. Edit. I put my jelly in the fridge and PB in the pantry. The whole night was a roller coaster. Spoon into the trash and yogurt cup into the sink. Then facepiming when hearing the wrong sound. The plastic cup instead of metal spoon. One time, one of the kids asked for shit, I don't even remember what. Probably asked for a sandwich or something. On autopilot, I was tired and sick. I go into the kitchen, got a bowl out of the cabinet, sliced up a bunch of ham, put that in the bowl, poured in apple juice, stuck a slice of toast and a tea bag on top and handed it to him with a steak knife. Kiddo was smart. He watched me do all that, took the bowl and knife, said thank you, put it on the table and went and got my wife and said daddy is super tired and showed her what I'd done. She put me to bed after that. You have the best child. When I was little I had 2 bird pets. One day I was holding one with my right hand and playing with the bird. Some time later I got myself a lollipop and was licking on it. Eventually I had been holding both of them at the same time. Now guess what I licked? Edit. Spelling. What flavor was Mr. Peepers? Nothing I could compare it to be honest. I'm a security guard for Amazon and I have to do bathroom checks. Caught myself yelling security right before going to the restroom at a bar on my day off. Thank God it was empty. Was on the phone with my boss and she was getting really irritated about something. I don't even remember what. The combination of her irritation and my exhaustion made my brain misfire, and I ended the call with okay bye bye mom, I love you. I was so embarrassed but she thought it was hilarious and started calling me her adopted daughter after that. I mean, she is the same age as my mom so it's not too weird, but I certainly felt like a child around her instead of a colleague until she left the company. I miss her. I'm sorry you lost your mom. Was typing up an essay, mine started spacing out, came back around and I had typed the page without any errors, was strangely proud of myself. I had this happen to me. I had procrastinated on a film study project, started working on it at 8 PM the night before it was due, made it about 1/2 of the way through by midnight, and woke up in my bed at 5:30 AM to go to school with no recollection of anything after midnight. I was freaking out thinking I still had 4 hours of work to do to finish, but checked the document and it was done. Last saved at 3 AM. I got an A on a project that I barely remembered doing, and I had done the second half faster than when I was conscious. Unrelated story, but our bio class was working on a lab report and one of my buddies in the class was going through depression. Night before it was due. Him, I and a couple of other lads were working on it in a Skype call just to make things easier. Soon, he goes quiet and we hear a quiet rumbling, enough to catch onto the mic. Turns out he fell asleep. We felt bad for him, so we broke into his Drive account. Security question was easy as shit, and finished his report for him. Week later he is telling us that he finished his entire reports in his sleep and that he was feeling substantially better since he felt his body wasn't giving up so his mind shouldn't either. I think he got a 92 on it too. We never told him it was us. Dude's doing great now. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.